March, the third month of the year, might seem like nothing big, but note the fact that it is named after the Roman god of war, Mars. True to its name, this month has a reputation of being variable and violent. People across civilizations have always been wary of this month. Stories, myths, and legends have been brewed, told, and retold. These beliefs stem from the fact that there should always be a balance between weather and life. And balance is an absentee for March. In fact, as they say, March comes in like a roaring lion and goes out like a lamb. Let's see if that is true. March babies are doomed to become depressed, yet artistic. They carry with them the fierce winds that shape this month, and as ambitious as that might sound, sometimes they could fly too far. They can grow up to be turbulent and forceful. They are capable of bringing about great change, but not all of them are good ones. Well, it's certainly true in these cases. John Wayne Gacy. Are you someone that had nightmares after watching the It film? Or do you have an incurable fear of clowns? Well then, let us interest you in the story of the clown killer. By day, John Wayne Gacy was Pogo the clown, and by night, he murdered dozens of men and teenage boys. On January 2nd, 1972, 16-year-old Timothy got up early to make his host some breakfast. He had met John at the Chicago bus terminal the night before, and John had let him stay at his place. Well, the little boy got out the eggs and bacon and set the table for two, and then he walked up the stairs to wake up John. But his mistake was he did not leave the knife that he had been using. He was carrying it as he knocked at John's door. And what happened next would set the scene for the rest of John's life. Not realizing that the boy had intended no harm, John stabbed him in the chest, killing him instantly. He then buried his body beneath his house and covered the grave with concrete. Killing the boy, however, gave John the most intense adrenaline rush he had ever felt in his life. The murder had been a mistake, but it had instilled in John the ultimate thrill that he would crave for the rest of his life. Over the next 6 years, 32 more bodies would join Timothy, and all victims of John's thirst for murder. Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Mohammed bin Awad bin Laden was born on 10th of March 1957. He is probably the most infamous terrorist of modern times. The founder of Al-Qaeda, this Islamic fanatics organization, had conducted a worldwide campaign of terror, taking the lives of thousands in various countries. He is a terrorist extremist who planned the September 11, 2001 attacks on the World Trade Center and was intent on driving the Western influence from the Islamic world. At the age of 14, bin Laden was recognized as an outstanding, if somewhat shy, student at Al-Tahir. As a result, he received a personal invitation to join a small study group with the promise of earning extra credit. Bin Laden studied along with the sons of several prominent Jeddah families. This group would memorize the entire Quran, a prestigious accomplishment by the time they graduated from the institution. But the group soon lost its original focus, and during this time, bin Laden received the beginnings of an education in some of the principles of violent jihad. By 1993, bin Laden had formed a secret network known as Al-Qaeda, Arabic for the base, comprised of militant Muslims he had met while serving in Afghanistan. Soldiers were recruited for their ability to listen, their good manners, obedience, and their pledge to follow their superiors. Their goal was to take up jihadist cause around the world, righting all the perceived wrongs. By the time he was finally killed, the death toll of his group's activities and the international war spawned had taken over 100,000 people around the world. He is easily one of the biggest terrors the world has ever seen, and he is a March bomb. Before we launch into the tragedies of March, did you know that it is a very, very hard task to find a good day in March? Quite a few days are booked as bad luck. For instance, the first 3 days are called blind days. It is an old Devon superstition that says that no one should plant new seeds during these days. And the last 3 days, they aren't good either. The last 3 days of March have a reputation of being extremely stormy. Scottish folklore proposes that these 3 days were borrowed from April so that March, the god of war, could extend his power. There is an interesting Spanish story about these borrowing days. It goes like this. A shepherd once promised March a lamb if he would temper the wind so it would suit the shepherd's flock. But after he received his request, the greedy shepherd, refused payment. And so the god of war got angry, and to seek his revenge, March borrowed 3 days from April in which fierce angry winds would blow about to punish the deceiver. So let's listen to the Scots and the Spanish and take care during these days. The Ides of March and the death of Caesar. The Ides of March has long been considered an ill-fated day. Julius Caesar was assassinated on March 15, 44 BC. Historians note that it is likely that a soothsayer named Spurina had warned Caesar that danger would occur on the Ides of March. William Shakespeare included the phrase, "Beware the Ides of March," in his play Julius Caesar. Suffice to say that the Ides are ill-fated and unfavorable, so be careful what you do on that day. Ides, the 15th of March. 4th of March 1918. Spanish flu strikes and kills 100 million. When Albert Gitchell awoke on Monday, 4th of March 1918, he felt awful. He was a company cook at Fort Riley and was supposed to be serving breakfast for hundreds of young American recruits who were waiting to be shipped off to the battlefields of France. But when the doctors took one look at him, they knew. With a temperature of more than 103, Gitchell was in no state to work in a mess. However, a few hours later, another man, Lee Drake, was infected, then another, Sergeant Adolph Hobby, and another, and another. Men kept coming. There were 107 by lunchtime, and more than 500 by the end of the week. By the end of the month, no fewer than 1,127 men were infected at Fort Riley. 46 of them died. 46 young, healthy American soldiers. The next few months, as American soldiers flooded into Europe, they brought the deadly influenza with them. With vast armies surging across an exhausted continent, the conditions were perfect for a pandemic. This was one of history's deadliest disasters. Across the world, some 500 million people had been struck down by the flu by the end of 1920. Many governments banned public gatherings or buried victims in mass graves. Reporting restrictions in the combatant nations meant that the disease's progress in the neutral Spain drew disproportionate attention. Hence its nickname, the Spanish flu. Only one populated part of the world reported no cases at all, and that is near the Amazon. Not one country was spared, and not one living being. 1st March 1932. The Lindbergh baby vanishes. On the evening of 1st March 1932, the pioneering aviator Charles Lindbergh was at home in New Jersey with his wife, Annie, and his 20-month-old son, Charles Jr. At 7:30 p.m., a nanny laid the toddler down to sleep in his crib. About 2 hours later, Charles heard a noise he thought sounded like a crate smashing, but thought nothing of it. Then at about 10 p.m., the nanny, frantic with worry, reported that the baby had disappeared. In his bedroom, Charles found a handwritten, misspelled note that said, "Dear Sir, have $50,000 ready. $25,000 in $20 bills, $15,000 in $10 bills, and $10,000 in $5 bills. We warn you for making anything public or for notifying the police. The child is in gut care." And so began one of the most lurid cases in American criminal history. Amid massive publicity, crowds swiftly swarmed to the Lindbergh estate, destroying any chance of finding footprints. Detectives, military men, and even Chicago mobsters offered their assistance. More ransom notes arrived. In early April, Lindbergh delivered the $50,000 to the kidnapper via an intermediary. But there was no baby. Then, on 12th of May, a truck driver found a child's body in the woods near Lindbergh's home. It was little Charles. 2 years later, police arrested a German-born carpenter, Bruno Richard, who had a record of robbery and whose garage contained notes from the ransom money. Protesting his innocence, he went to the electric chair. But many observers are convinced that he must have had help. And the novelist Agatha Christie, this case inspired one of her greatest books, Murder on the Orient Express. The next time you read her book, know that this dark event in history inspired it. So that's all things stormy and dark about March. Are you March-born? Comment down below and let us know which fact you found out to be most intriguing. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more dark content or another video on what is dark about your month, then do let us know. Like our videos, subscribe and share for more horror.